Got it. Welcome, 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 everybody. Welcome to Latest with Laura. This one is going to be such a great Zoom because we have the one and only Mr. Jerry White with us, who is like the world's expert on redox. But tonight we're going to be talking about something different. We're shifting our focus. Normally we talk about how this is for the sickest of the sick. We're going to talk about how this is for the fittest of the fit. But first, let's start off by explaining what is in this amazing blue bottle here. Well, it's a bioreplenishment. It's redox signaling molecules. It's something that your mitochondria naturally make every moment of the day. You could probably go for about 3 weeks without food, and maybe 3 days without water, maybe 3 minutes without oxygen. You can't last even 3 seconds without your redox signaling molecules. And as you age, you're making less and less and less of this, about 10% less every decade that you age once you get into your 20s. And so this is just a bioreplenishment. It gives you back what you're losing. And why is it so great? Well, it helps with cellular communication. It amplifies, it clarifies signals between and within your cells. So they're just talking to each other better, kind of wakes up the inner doctor in your cells and makes them go, oh, there's something that we could be doing a little bit better. It boosts your glutathione and superoxide dismutase. Those are fabulous antioxidants, so your immune system will be boosted. I tell people I haven't bought Kleenex since 2016 when I started this. And what's so exciting to me is it turns on genes for your cardiac system, immune system, inflammatory system, digestive system, and hormone modulation. We always say this is not a cure or treatment for anything because we are very compliant. But without a doubt, it empowers your cells to work better and heal faster. Every single health challenge involves cells, and it just makes your cells work better. So now I want to talk about Jerry and how great he is. And, normally he's the guy on the stage whenever you go to any redox event, just educating the world because he's qualified to do that. Whenever there is some wacky medical question that I don't know the answer to, that none of the doctors I know the answer to, I call Jerry. And he knows. But let's talk about how he's qualified to speak as an athlete. When he was in college, every single year, all 4 years, he made All-American in swimming. He was the head coach for 5 different swimming programs. When the Ironman was first created, he trained those athletes. He's been a professional trainer for football and hockey. And get this, ballet. How cool is that? He was also a head coach at the Olympic Training Center. And he took a break from competing 41 years ago. And then his amazing wife, Marcia, said, hey, I want a training buddy. Come race with me. And he's like, all right. Well, he just did an Ironman 70.3 a few weeks ago. And #1 in his age group, beat the #2 guy by more than 17 minutes. And then as of yesterday, so that was July 13th, 2024, he was in another race and the statistics are coming in now. We think he might be #1 in the nation. So, Jerry, let's talk about how does this help athletes perform better and recover faster? And thank you so much for being here.
Wow. You can say more in about a minute than most people can in a half an hour.
Thank you.
Thank you for showing up. This is one of my favorite subjects, and we're going to put some speed on here. I've only got about 20 minutes before we have to switch to something else. So let's take a look at this idea of athletics. And for many people, they don't believe they're athletes. Now, they have a goal to be able to get off the couch and get to the fridge or the bathroom without falling over. And some of them can't. So the Olympics is to try to get from where they are to someplace better. So the parameters and some of the things that we're going to be discussing here will range, but everybody will benefit from some of the things that we're talking about today. The first thing that it really interested me about ASEA was when Danny Robinson gave me some of this ASEA redox at first, and I was thinking I didn't have anything that I had pressing needs for. So I was training because I've been at this swimming stuff for a very long time, 50 some years. And I know how fast I go and how much heart rate I get and how hard that is and all that. And so I started noticing within a very short period of time, I could go 10 seconds or 4 seconds faster for 100-yard repeats. And my heart rate was lower. Now that was really strange. That doesn't happen in a day or two. So I was contemplating that, but I was kicking cans and never really did much with it other than that. This is really fascinating stuff. So I want to talk to you about what I've learned. We want to open the book a little bit. We can't certainly talk about everything, but what I'm going to do to make a couple of points to intrigue the dickens out of all of you so that you want to dive deeper into human performance so that we can all be better than where we used to be. Most of you got introduced to this because you heard somebody who had a health problem, or you were worried about or working on that for yourself or somebody that you loved. And in the West, we take a look at health by saying, wait till your bus is halfway off the bridge and then try to call in the safety people and pull you back off the bridge. So we try to wait till you get some diagnosis and then see if they can cover it up or they can make the noise go away. It's like, it drives me nuts. This smoke alarm's going off in my kitchen. So what they do is they crawl up there and they put a towel over it or something so you don't have to hear it. Well, wait a second. You didn't affect the fire. You just put a towel over the smoke alarm so it won't be annoying. That's covering up the symptoms or taking the symptoms away when you go back at. And so we've got a whole part of the American sick care system that operates in that way. But we're going to take a look at more of the Japanese approach. Many don't know this, but the Japanese say, the doctor, we're going to give you a stipend for a certain number of people, maybe 500 people. And here's the deal, we'll pay you for those people's health. But if they get sick, you're in charge of paying for their remediation. Now, would you think if you were a physician that was now being charged because they got sick, you would probably look at keeping people healthy, wouldn't you? Then that's a really different way of looking at things. Now, I'm also going to be talking about going from where you are to where you want to be. Most of us see a decline as you age. Cover that. Why do we decline? Well, here at our house, just a couple of weeks ago, we started smelling a little sewage outside. We were on a septic system, and it has to be pumped up into the draining field. And I thought, uh-oh, we better get this thing pumped out, not knowing what was really going on. And there's this switch underneath the sink in the kitchen that is supposed to have a buzzer on it that tells you that the pump's not working. Better call somebody to get it fixed. Turns out somebody got up under the sink and turned the switch off. So the pump wasn't pumping the sewage up so they could go out the drain field, and it flooded and overwhelmed the whole system. So what if in your aging process, you start to lose the signals that tell the cells what to do? There can be all kinds of problems that continue to develop and you don't even know it. Well, once we turned the switch back on, we discovered that the breaker switch on that pump had been turned off. And flipped the switch, the pump started working, corrected the whole issue. We didn't have to replace a whole bunch of stuff. Well, if we add back ASEA to your system, it turns out that your system begins to start to turn on the bells and whistles and the sensors that you normally should have, and something changes. So here's some things to remember. As a kid under the age of 12, your body burns fats first. Now, the cool thing about that is fats have 60 times the energy density of sugars. And so the other thing about that is if you burn fats, not only do you get more energy by quite a bit, but it burns cleanly. And as a result, you don't get the lactic acid buildup. So here's the thing, little kids can play all day long, fall out of a tree, get hit by a truck, and they can, by morning, they're good to go. But as you get to teenage years, you ever notice that your kids, when they start doing double practices, they get so sore they can't get up out of the basement? What just happened? Or somebody as an adult, they might order some landscaping pebbles or rocks or something, and they get so sore they can hardly move. Well, what you've done is you switch from burning fats first to burning sugars first. Now, that's interesting at puberty because those fats are then deposited to make those shapely ladies and all sorts of things. And you'll notice that your energy doesn't replenish as quickly. And so an athlete who is burning fats first would have a tremendous advantage over an athlete that doesn't burn fats first. So a big study came out of North Carolina Research Institute, took a bunch of 19-year-olds, put them on bicycles, and they went a 70-kilometer ride, but they did some pretty deep science. You can see it in a website that we'll bring up here pretty quick called athleteedge.com. Now, most of you will think that I just said athletes with an S, edge.com, but no. As you type it in, there's no S. It looks really silly. Athleteedge.com. And it has a bunch of things that you can check out there for some studies that were done on ASEA for athletes. And one of those that was very interesting is this metabolomic study. And what it showed is for the very first time, athletes over the age of puberty were breaking down fats into fatty acids. In fact, I think there was 48 or 46 or 48 fatty acids that were in the blood available to burn immediately at the beginning of this exercise cycle. No, they did what's called a double-blinded, placebo-controlled, peer-reviewed, all that sort of stuff, and they found that those who were on the ASEA were burning fats first and not sugars. So how many of us have ever heard of somebody who wants to lose weight by exercising? Blink your eyes, raise your hand, whatever it is. You ever hear of anybody wanting to do that? Well, here's the nasty little secret. It takes 40 minutes to burn the sugar out of the system to start burning the fat. You ever known anybody who starts exercising who doesn't exercise beyond the 40 minutes to even start? What if you could take something that would change it and flip that switch so you're burning those fatty acids, which were the components of the fats in the first place, and burn them first? A lot of different things happen. Instead of you go trying to do 41 minutes of exercise, what then would happen if you just stepped to the closet, picked up the vacuum and began to move around the house and vacuum? The very first thing that would happen was you would start burning fats. What? And then if you could do extra work and you had more energy because you're getting a higher density return, that would be the most amount of awesome. And then you find out that you can double what you normally do. And you go, wait a second, I should feel overwhelmed and sore. You trace it back and say, isn't that amazing? What was required? A couple of weeks of being on ASEA, drinking it a couple of times a day. Interesting. So what does that mean for an athlete? Well, what it means for an athlete is that you're damaging the system less and you're recovering quickly, much more quickly. You're imitating many different things that you could do when you were a little kid. So I'm going to jump into, gosh, I've only got 11 minutes left, so I'm going to leave you wanting. I'm going to leave you all in mystery, wishing we could do more, but we'll go for it today. And we'll see what we end up with. So the first thing I want to do is to show you this. And for some you have seen us talk about this, is that the cells in your body turn over at a given rate. When you're young, they make new cells to replace the retiring, tiring, getting older, used up cells very quickly. This is an example of skin. Every 14 days, a baby makes a brand new set of skin. By the time you're 20, the system slows down and ultimately 28 days. And you know, we all look best when we were 20 anyway. What you notice that this product called Renew 28 right here, you know what the 28 stands for? It says renew. If you're down here in 40, 50, and 60 years old and your skin is lasting for 45 days or 60 days or 90 days, it's well past its ability to handle all the ravages of life. So what if you could renew to 28 days? That's why they call it that. Isn't that the most amount of awesome? And when you start to see it, it's radical within that. But here's our talk. Let's talk about the muscles, the cardiovascular system, building new tools to make you a better athlete. This is one of the things we noticed right off. This is talking about how long does it take in an athlete who's being studied, watching their heart rate. They start here at time 0 and they continue to exercise, and they meet this threshold where their body switches from burning consistently, called aerobic. It's clean. It's not building up the lactic acid load. And right at that line, at 160, is their anaerobic threshold. It means beyond that, you start building lactic acid. Beyond that, you start the stopwatch. You only got a couple of minutes and your whole system will bog down and shut down. Your muscles will be very difficult to contract. You can't clean them out as quickly. It's not nearly so efficient. So you're into the ballistics and you've crossed the line. Well, in this particular study, look at what happened. That you could go longer compared to another athlete. You could go longer before you reach that switch. Now, wouldn't that be interesting? You have two athletes that are starting here and they're running together and they're kind of keeping pace with each other like this. And one of them has already begun the process of loading up the fatty acids. They're burning the sugars. And it's like their body is living in peanut butter. And then they want to turn on for the sprint at the end of the race. The athlete on ASEA still has that nitro left over. It's the sugar-based called, oh gosh, I'm talking too fast. But the sugar's still available. You can turn it on like nitroglycerin in a race car and take off on your competitor who is bogging down. They already spent that fuel and you get this advantage. So let's take a look at some of the things that an athlete's going to want to know. Number one, this material is what's called WADA compliant. WADA means the World Anti-Doping Association. And for us who are clean athletes, especially at the Olympic levels, we want to know that that's true. And it's in fact in the pro levels and all that sort of stuff. You have to have WADA compliance. It means this stuff says, nope, there's nothing banned in it. We've checked it. When we checked, it's got like 16 pages of checks on everything possible, passes the WADA compliance for. And then we've got certification for this other one, which is really interesting for those of you who are trying to talk to professional teams and professional athletes and people who are trying for the Olympics and all kinds of different stuff. It's also NSF support or NSF sport compliant. Without that certificate, no program will talk to you. With it, they won't even ask questions. Said it's been, the athletic trainers can use it, the physical therapists can use it, the physicians can use it, the coaches can use it, everybody can use it, and you're not putting something into the system that could potentially be banned. Well, this is that site I was telling you about, athleteedge.com, and there's a whole series of different things. And look at some of the things they point out that your athletic endurance will change. And that was that chart we just showed, where it takes longer for you to reach that point where you start to get the diminishing return on buildup of crud. Your speed of recovery is fantastically different. And I'll give you an example of that. We were messing around in an Ironman competition. Guy was uncharacteristically long. He took 16 or 18 hours to get through his Ironman, and he felt terrible. His legs were burning so bad that he couldn't get up off the curb. They were cleaning the place up. It was midnight there. Everybody was going home, and he was kind of like, "Mister, can you help me and go get my car? I can't stand up." So I tried to get him to stand up. His quads were burning. And I said, "I want you to try to apply this Renew 28 to one-legged. So let's just see what happens." Not only did he stand up, but he fell over because the other leg wouldn't work. And then I asked him to do something interesting. And that was to do a squat on the one leg that just now apparently seems to have repaired itself. It was the craziest thing. And he literally was able to jump up to a park bench on one foot and back down on that leg. And guess what? We gave him the other one. He was able to come back. So aerobic performance, this means that that line at which we can stay. If you stay below the line, you can exercise it over and over and over and over again, and you're not going to break it down. It's going to boost your energy in the cell capacity. It's going to allow for overall cellular enhancement and endurance. One study that was done was on mice. They found that with the mice, they could run them to complete exhaustion, and then they just get 2 weeks off. Now, most of us realize you have to train to get better, but in this particular study, all they did during that 2 weeks was to allow the mouse to drink ASEA. And in this study, across the board, there was a 30% increase in endurance. Isn't that interesting? It talks about superior antioxidant performance. That's the breakdown of the oxidizers that you make when you're exercising. So you recover more quickly. But there are so many other aspects to this. If you've ever seen us do these flexibility tests with the ASEA before and without the ASEA, then add the ASEA, the Renew 28 or the ASEA spray or the drink, and all of a sudden their flexibility is increased, what you're going to do is you're going to take the resistance off of that person's own body. What happens near the end of the activity, the race, you see that that's when people are most damaged. And it's usually because you're unable to respond as quickly, in part because you're fighting yourself. And like I said, that analogy, it feels like you're running in peanut butter. You want to turn on, but you've used it all up. Everything is loaded. I only got 4 minutes left. So we look at this, some of the results of this. This is Brad Barton at 48 years old. He was trying to break a world record at 4:24. I'll put up 4:25 right here. He kept breaking he tore his quads twice, broke his foot once, got 2 bouts of pneumonia and 1 of West Nile virus. Now, if you think about that, how many of you think he was probably overtrained and under-recovered? Trying to do the world record, but he's fallen apart. So I put him on ASEA. You put him on 8 ounces for a couple of months, probably 3 months. And lo and behold, he reported back and he was not broken. Didn't have one ill effect. He had been trying for years to break that record, which was breaking him. He wanted to go from 4:24 on the indoor mile at 48 years old to 4:21 for that esteemed world record. Lo and behold, he didn't go that 4:21. He went to 4:16, age adjusted, the fastest anyone's ever run an indoor mile. Now, another one, Tom Beasley. And Tom Beasley, a 2-time Super Bowl winner for the Pittsburgh Steelers back in the old days. He said when he was just in the league, it would take him till Tuesday to recover from a Sunday game. But within a very short period of time, maybe 2 or 3 years, he was older, less able to recover, and it was Thursday or Friday before he could recover from the game. He said by the time he had to retire at 10 years or 11 years into the league, it was because he couldn't even recover during a full week and wasn't fully recovered before the next game. So you break down consistently over the season, you're getting beat up and torn up. He said with ASEA, he would have probably gotten another 5 to 6 years out of his season. When I first started coaching Ironman triathletes, and in the 4th year did that half Ironman, the 70.3, in those days in 1983, we would train the athletes to the point where if they did more than 2 in a year, it'd blow them up. And many of them would take 3 years to recover. Well, the first person that really challenged that was this guy who was the #1 fitness blogger in the world. Okay, I got to switch over to another channel here. But what he did was he started to use the ASEA, and within 2 weeks, he and his training partner said, okay, 2 a year, let's find out. So they completed 5 Ironmans in 7 days on the 5 islands of Hawaii. Changed the whole world. Along comes James Lawrence, the Iron Cowboy. And he went on to set the world record by doing 30 Ironmans in 1 year, doing ASEA. And later on did 50 in 50 days based on the recoveries of ASEA. The #1 right now at this point, the United States Olympic Games in Tokyo, the head coach was ASEA associate Rose Mundy. She's now the coach, not only the president of USA Track and Field, but the women's head coach going into the Paris Games. Do you think it probably works? This is world champion 70.3 Ironman Dexter Yates. She's the oldest competitor in the full Ironman distance this year, trying to be the last one at the last event in Kona, Hawaii. But for us, and then we have Olympic gold medalists in swimming. But this is my gold medalist. This is Marcia, who 13 years ago when we started this, she was trying to do some triathlons because I used to do a lot of them when I was, I quit 41 years ago. I dabbled after that because my feet blew up. In her case, she wanted to do them, but she couldn't get past the run part because she got all stuck and she couldn't breathe. So she started using ASEA, got better and better and better. And lo and behold, by the time she went from 55 doing those to 65, something changed in her lungs, changed in her ability. She met ASEA. She started working out with Dexter. And 2 years ago, at 65 years old, she completed her first full Ironman with a 26-mile marathon. We're not just trying to get past that level where you're over some symptom. We're going to go beyond to the point of absolute excellence. She turned around and dabbled in the 70.5 or 70.3 distance and qualified for the World Championships and went to Helsinki, Finland last year and got in the top 25 in the world from somebody who couldn't even breathe 10 years ago. Look into your life. Where do you want to be? And then like she's just pointed out, like Laura just pointed out, I came back after 41 years, wanted to see if I could just get across the finish line on one 3 weeks ago. And it turns out that both of us once again qualified for this year's World Championships at 70.3 Ironman in New Zealand. And I couldn't walk well enough or run well enough to even get into, of the last 12 years, I probably only had 3 that I could do as a mini sprint. And these are 4 or 5 times longer, maybe 8 times longer. So we want to give that challenge to you. Take that challenge to become something that is so far beyond normal. Why not? Why not jump into this and go for the big time? It happens to the best of us, and it happens to the people who are the most damaged, is that we will be much better where we're going. Thanks for taking the time. I really do have to go to another one. And I hope this is intriguing to you. We can break this all down into pieces and we can go into 1,000 different directions on how athletes and regular people and weekend athletes and people who just want to make sure they can get to the cookies without falling down. Here we go. All right, pass it back to you, ladies. Thanks for the time.
Thank you so much, Jerry. You are amazing. I love you so much. I appreciate your time. I know you need to hop on to another meeting. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Go get them latest with Laura, people.